Hello and welcome to another Contemplative Living, where we talk about concepts to try to bring contemplative living into everyday life. You know, Spirit once said to me, emerge from the darkness of separation. Rise with the quickening energy of light. The miracle of man is within himself. He who taught himself to love all and show compassion to those yet dreaming. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, focusing and emerging from the darkness of separation, the illusion of separation. And how do we do that? Let's get to it.
Welcome to Contemplative Living, where we view contemplations for the week to have a better understanding of our spiritual paths. This is Contemplative Living with Dave Bennett, contemplations and reflective meditations.
All right, well, here we are again, trying to work on ourselves. Last week we talked a lot about being ourselves. And today we're going to talk about higher frequencies of thought. But we have to start somewhere. And where we start is how we choose things in life. So choose whether you'll be affected by every twist and turn in the game of life. Do we want to be pulled this way and pulled that way? I think not. I think we want to be centered in who we are. And I think we want to be that way in all of our interactions in life. So, to do that, we have to make a choice. We have to choose. Choose to not be pulled this way and that way, but instead be centered within ourselves so that we can interact in a more calm, peaceful, and focused way of life. So the way you think affects every human on the planet. Not just yourself, but every human on the planet is affected by the way we think. So, think about that. That's mind-blowing. It's a huge concept that shows the interconnection that we all have with one another. Higher frequency of thought and feeling have much more power. When we're caught up in the circumstances, when we're pulled into the mob mentality, it loses the effectiveness of the individual. The mob becomes the higher not the higher frequency, but the mob becomes the more, just gathers more strength, more energy. But when we break away from the circumstances, when we elevate our consciousness into a higher frequency, when we center our being and we become more authentic to ourselves and connect with our higher consciousness, our true nature, that's where higher frequencies exist. And those frequencies are the ones that affect every human being on this earth. And so the more that we can focus and bring ourselves back to ourselves and break away from the circumstances and the mob mind and think for ourselves, that's way more powerful than the mob mind. Your unconditional love and spiritual practice have a greater influence. So how do we find our center? We find it through our spiritual practice. And within our spiritual practice, we tap into that unconditional love, which is the universal mind. It's not the mob mind, which is caught up in the circumstances. It's elevated up into a higher consciousness, a higher frequency. And that is where we want to reside as much as we can. Yeah, we're human, and we're gonna fall off, and we're gonna get pulled in every now and then into the circumstances. And that's okay. We're human, I mean, we have to live in this world, and we have to understand this world. But the thing is to come back as frequently as we can throughout our day and connect with our spiritual source and tap into that unconditional love. To change the world by choosing to develop love through dedicated spiritual practices. This is the way that we can move forward and to get past the divisions that we feel all the time, being pulled this way and that way, and being told that this is the way we're supposed to do things. To rise above that and to change the world, we need to develop our spiritual practices. Our spiritual practices are our foundation. They're our anchor to our being and to who we really are, to that authentic self that we want to portray in all of our interactions. So change the world by choosing to develop love through your spiritual practices. And I say spiritual practices because I'm not telling you to find just one thing is the right way. I believe that we all, unique individuals living this life in the illusion of separateness, need to find all the different spiritual practices because they are all rooted in that universal mind, in that universal consciousness of unconditional love. And so the more that we bring all those practices to bear, that's how we change the world. So, be one who creates higher frequencies of thought. Here in Virginia, the leaves are changing. We're in that time where we can see how we can change. We're going into a period of introspection. We're going into a period of longer nights, more time for introspection. That's how we connect, and we connect through that introspection using our spiritual practice to connect to our higher consciousness and those higher frequencies of thought. And once we do that, we become the creators of the future. It's powerful, and it's an empowered way of living. So I hope that you find that empowered path and that you're living that empowered path in your day-to-day. And don't worry, this season tends to pull us away from ourselves a lot of times. There's things that are going to push our buttons. There are tragedies that are happening around the world that we feel compelled and compassionate toward. Well, let's work toward helping them. Let's help ourselves and help the world. All right? I hope you have a blessed week. Namaste.